context of this little presentation, I'm a journalist and I've been covering rugby for a million years, and I cover mostly high school and college and some international. And the context of that is important. I don't necessarily need to talk about myself because of what we're going to talk about. And really it's talking about a different look at the pro rugby dream. And last week, National Collegiate Rugby had their All-Star Championship for men, which was a great event. They had these tournaments. They had this tournament. They had teams from all over. They had a great team from the Great Lakes that had some players from Wisconsin play. The Midwest didn't do so well. Whatever. And I really enjoyed watching it, and I got a lot out of it. And at the same time, there was sort of this nagging thing behind me. And it wasn't really that everyone was making mistakes. It wasn't really that there was a lot of wind. It wasn't even the horrendous jokes you got from the announcers. For me, it was the talk constantly about Major League Rugby. It was the constant talk about these players are coming out, and the Major League Rugby scouts are going to watch them, and they're going to get a shot at professional rugby. Because that really shouldn't be why we're doing it. And that really shouldn't have been why this tournament was going on. We're doing the tournament because you love playing rugby. And you're pretty good at it, so you want to go play with some other better players. And come together and win something and maybe be seen. Yes, somebody would be seen, but let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm just doing some quick math in my head here, where math is done. Okay, I wonder if everybody could please put both hands up in the air. All right. So now what people are all doing is you're representing an estimate of how many rugby college graduates there are coming out of the country. You're representing, with all of us, we're a little bit short this. But we're representing about, say, 1,500 people. So I would like all of you, except for you, put your hands down. Put your right hand down. There's our likely pool of players who are going to maybe get a look at a Major League Rugby. Out of all those hands, this is it. Thank you. Good job. We're looking at maybe 50 spots. These are all estimates for me, but Major League Rugby has about 500 rostered players. Maybe they have a 20% turnover, so that's 100 players they might replace each year. Of those, half of them are probably going to go to overseas athletes. So we're talking about 50 spots for maybe 1,500 collegiate rugby players. So is that a realistic thing to be talking to your coaches, talking to, or carrying with yourself, that's the goal? And not to run it down, I love Major League Rugby. I think it's great that we have a professional league, but we also have to be conscious of the fact that as I've done coverage on the Major League Rugby draft, what that is you have to go through a process and you sign up to only play for that team. You might travel across country to only play for that team and be paid a couple $100 a week. So what do we talk about our players about? What are some of the things we've got rugby players here, right? Why do you play? Somebody tell me. Why do you play?
Why?
What?
Did 3 sports in high school. That's pretty much the only reason I went. Did
Right.
in high school.
All right, so
more,
it's fun.
And
yeah.
After high school, I was kind of like, what?
Okay.
And I found a local club and loved it.
Okay, you loved it. Why do you love it?
Camaraderie, brotherhood.
Okay. Does that ring true to anybody here? Right? Camaraderie, right? Being part of something, right? So, are you thinking, yeah, I'm going to be a big international sports star?
Not anymore.
Not anymore, right. Oh, we all did, right? You know, I had, you know, I was thinking about that too. I was 16 years old playing in England, watching my hero, Jean-Pierre Rive, for Toulouse in France, thinking that I could be just like him. Jean-Pierre Rive had long blonde hair, and he had a bandage that he tied around his hair to keep it under control. He's captain of France. His long blonde hair, he's an artist. So I, of course, had to get hair, right? And the other thing was my other hero was J.P.R. Williams, who also had long hair. I don't know why I've got short hair, but J.P.R. Williams could never keep his socks up and always down on his ankles. So I had the socks down at the ankles, and I had the headband on because I was going to be playing international rugby just like that. So yeah, you have that dream, things like that. But what keeps you playing? It's fun. Gives you a place to be. The sisterhood, the brotherhood, right? How many of you had to stop playing football because of like COVID and all that? Right? How'd that feel? How'd that feel? Not good, right? Lonely, right? A little bit lonely, right? Something's missing, right? You're sitting there, it's like, whatever, 3 in the afternoon, and you got nothing to do, and you're, yes. Again, you're not thinking about this. So you look at the pictures here, and these are standard pictures for me. These are people together. These are, what, that last picture you saw, I can even go back to it, because I like that one. This one. Opponents together, right? Arms around each other. So the camaraderie of rugby isn't just your team, right? I know, do we have teams that we hate, right? We hate those guys. But really, I mean, you kind of like those guys too, right? You go and you play them and you lose 26-20 on a final try, you know, you come together, right? Great game. So this is like the romantic image I have of sport. And I've been involved in the sport my entire life, literally my entire life. My earliest memories of watching my brothers play, I was like 2, 3 years old. And the entire image of the sport for me has been arms around each other when you're opponents, respect for each other, people running to be part of this group. This is stuff that I get romantic about. This happened, this is from this past spring. It could have been from 50 years ago. It's no different. That's what the sport is about. So as coaches and as players, when we talk about the sport, what I'm hoping is that we focus less on the idea that rugby is going to make you a professional rugby player. Rugby is going to make you rich in that way, right? A multi-million-dollar contract. What does it do for you? So, I will say this is a slightly younger group than I anticipated. That's okay, we'll see. How many, all right, first of all, put your hands up if you've made lifelong friends through rugby. Okay, as far as you know. Right. Maybe you've had falling out just last week. How many of you gotten a job thanks to it? Fewer people. How many of you have given a job, or perhaps, let's say hypothetically, would give a job to a rugby player, partly because they're a rugby player? Why? Why?
Me?
Yeah.
A girl college rugby player walked into my office, or messaged me on LinkedIn, and she said, I would love to learn about your job. And she said, I play on the rugby club. And I said, I get messages like that from college kids all the time. And solely because she was a rugby player, I said, yes, come into my office.
So you perked up because it's a rugby
And
player.
she was a great hire, and she worked for us And I just helped her get a job at the NCAA for the next year.
Beautiful.
And she now has an entirely different career.
And what would, Karen, I'll put you on the spot, what would rugby say to you? Is it just, hey, you know, I love rugby, so, and you love rugby, so let's just talk? Or is there something more to it if you give someone a job?
I think you already have a shared understanding of obviously my job is related to rugby, so it's almost like you need to understand what we're talking about and some of the terminology, but also just knowing that you kind of get me, you understand what it means to, have to, do a 10-hour drive somewhere and carpool with 500 people, and I don't know, there's just some parts about rugby or the having a social afterwards with the team you just played, you have shared experiences, even though you could be 20 years younger than me or 20 years older than me. We all have a lot of shared experience. So there's a trust there.
Trust, shared experience is big. So for the younger people here, think about someone you became friends with because you saw them actually get out on the field. Right? Have you ever had someone do that? Where you just watched them, they had the guts to go play. So you said, oh, I'd like to know this person more. That you have that shared experience of the chaos of the rugby game, or the shared experience of respect for your opponent, something we don't do in other sports. These are all things that permeate the sport more than the idea that you're going to sign a big contract, more than the idea that it's about money. But we also talk about, and I mentioned jobs, money is part of it. The idea then that I'd like people to sort of adjust, now that professional rugby is here, and talk about celebrating professional rugby players, is to flip that around and say that we should be celebrating rugby professionals. And rugby players are going to go through high school and college, and they're going to do things like open up a body shop, become vice president of a bank. I think of my teammates back at Howard Asher's Asks, Elstree in England, a doctor, I've got a guy who drives a van, I've got a vice president of Deutsche Bank in there somewhere. I don't know how he ever got that job, the guy's a lunatic. But that's the goal for this sport. The goal is to make them more interesting people. The goal is to make them people of a wider community. That then they go sit down and say, I'm looking into getting a job with this natural gas company in Europe, and hey, one of the people I'm interviewing with played rugby. It's highly likely that you'll run into a rugby person, especially you start going overseas, you start talking to people in England, France, and Australia, things like that. And you'll find that the connection is the sport, as well as your competency, as well as your intelligence. The connection is the sport. And there we go back to, what was the word you said when you talked about why you stayed in rugby?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie, right? Camaraderie spreads out from, this video is, I like it because this team right here is just lost. National championship is just lost. And I'm sorry, it's shaky, I'm walking with my phone at the time. And then we've got the team that won. Now they're celebrating. And the losing team is ready to shake their hand. And they wait for them. They wait for them to finish celebrating. They don't get upset, they don't do anything, they wait for them to hug. But they're just standing there and waiting. Because we're still going to shake hands, we're still going to show respect. And they wait the whole time through the cheer before they come together. That's the overall message for the sport. Again, it's something I'm getting romantic about, but it's something that spreads out throughout the rest of life. If you're starting to treat people with this kind of respect, if you see the guy who basically trundled everyone in this tiny little room. This guy, he's crying and he's hugging those guys. He's crying because he won, and he's thanking them for being their opponent. This is something that we bring to not only sports, but really to a lot of other difficult things that are going on, that we can be special at. So the camaraderie, the family, is something that I would like to see coaches promote more. I would like to see players promote more. I would like to see those of us talking about the game talk about more. I've interviewed championship teams throughout this year, and the number one thing they talk about is family. That's the word that comes up. Why are you winning? And they don't say our number 8 is the best number 8 in the league. They don't say, well, our coach came in and gave us 3 special fancy plays that fooled everybody and we're winning. They don't say that we have a new game plan or we stole a player from that team. They don't say any of that. They say we're a family. They say we hang out off the field as well as on the field. They say that we like each other and we're together. Now, if you're on a team that's not clicking, there's your solution. It's nothing to do with, let's watch the Black Ferns or let's watch the All Blacks play, do some of their stuff. It doesn't really matter in one sense what are the drills you're doing when you're training. It's about that family feeling. And the family feeling within your team spreads out to when you don't play. So, I had another question for you. I'm interested in this one because, again, we'll see the relevance range of experience. How many of you have encountered a famous or prominent rugby player in a non-rugby situation? Okay? How did they treat you? What was that interaction like? Like family, right? They didn't big time you, right? You talk to famous rugby players in a non-rugby situation, what were they like?
Just like that.
No. Happened to me too. Now, I mean, as a journalist, I talk to a lot of rugby players, but I've also been in situations where I've run into players who didn't know me. I was at a party in Australia and I ran into John Hills and Tim Horan, who were famous at the time. And I was like a little starstruck, whatever. Just regular guys, right? Oh, you play rugby too. Let's talk about rugby. Do they say, well, you play for, East Downtown Third Side, so I'm not going to bother with you? No. Your shared experience of rugby player exists globally, and not only within recreational rugby, but on the elite level. How many of you encountered a rugby player who's a stranger to you, who's done something for you? Like?
I had a college tour, and the person giving the tour was a rugby player, and she showed us the rugby house specifically.
Yeah.
We went out of our way to go and see it.
Little thing like that, right? Bought you a drink, bought you dinner, right? A night on the town. I got a free night on the town because I was a rugby player.
We got free stuff on the Air Fiji flight because they spotted my husband's cauliflower ears.
Perfect, right? Love it. Absolutely love it. This is something that happens that hopefully we keep and hold on to. All right, so my big fear is probably coming true, so I'll be done early, but it's all right. Because it is somewhat lunchtime. Yesterday, I did the thing on social media, which fortunately you agreed with some of the things I said. I was really concerned because most of the videos and stuff I do are like 90 seconds or 2 minutes long. So I thought I'd be done in 3 minutes. I'd just be standing there. So the one thing that I'm sort of coming to a conclusion here, but there are a couple of things that I want us to think about when we talk about playing rugby and being within the rugby community, coaching, running a club, all the things that you'll end up doing. You have to wear all those hats. The idea of respect for your opponents, maybe staying with them, maybe sharing a meal, sharing a drink, sharing time with your opponents, I think cannot be lost. Keep it. And I think sometimes we're seeing it drift away a little bit, especially at the higher levels where teams come in, they play a game and they leave. Well, we can hold on to that. Computer just died. We can hold on to that a little bit more. We can continue to do it. We don't have to follow the lead of the professionals, of the internationals. The idea that we're together with our opponents is something fundamental to the game, and fundamental to the game at the grassroots level, which is where most of us are. The idea that rugby is a family that you'll do something for. Look, someday you'll get a note from somebody saying, hey, this guy at my club, he's in your town, he's got a flat tire, or he's going to be there for a couple of days, he needs a place to crash, stuff like that. That's the sort of thing that you should be looking to help with, because they're going to help you. That's what we do. And when you're running a club, when you're running a team, when you're running high school players, college players, the attraction is not, I would submit, about being a professional rugby player. The attraction is the idea that this game makes you more interesting. This game gives you a different perspective. This game gives you connections. Connections that you don't even have met people, but just say rugby player. And that pops you up to a different list. You get a job because you're a rugby player. You could find friends because you're a rugby player. You can go to a town halfway across the world, so you're suddenly in the middle of nowhere, and you look up the rugby club, and now you know some people. So, my mother was 19 years old when she was first on an airplane flight, which was in 1951, and she flew in a propeller plane from New York City to Singapore, which took like 2 days. She arrived in Singapore, where my father met her. I mean, they met before, but come together, they got married, had their marriage ceremony, and then they went to set up house in Jakarta, Indonesia, where they stayed for 7 years. And I bet they would like to have a rugby team around that they could be connecting with, right? Instead, they were all alone for a while. That's pretty tough. But you can now go anywhere in the world and just say, I'm a rugby player. You don't even have to play, right? You don't be part of it, come watch, just help out. But that connection gives you opportunities that other people just don't really have. So that makes you not a professional rugby player, that makes you a rugby professional. Rugby is part of your makeup, really. No matter whether you keep playing or not, you still play. So because of that, I kind of feel like, the message I'd like to leave is that we can play a bigger role in society than just be wins or losses, and we can be a bigger role in society, just championships or beating the other person, or thinking that it's just about the athlete. And I'll sort of finish up with one more question, really. In your team that you work with, or you play with, what stuff do you do outside of rugby? you do anything outside of rugby?
Like with the team.
Yeah, with the team, as a group.
We have socials and just eat together.
Okay, right, so that's good. That's a team bonding thing, which is good. It's good for performance on the field, but it's also just, it's fun, right? Okay.
After every game, we go to the same restaurant. We go to a wing place that's near all of our houses, and then this summer, while taking a road trip to Colorado, we're going fly fishing.
Nice, nice. Okay, so again, the bonding thing, but also if you go to the same restaurant, right? That's a thing in the community, right? Is that a locally owned restaurant? Yeah, that's cool, right? So then now you say, we're here, and we're not big ugly thugs, just throwing beer bottles through windows. We're actually here spending our money. What about the community? Do you do anything in the community?
Community service stuff.
Yeah.
So we are women's dinner today. No, none of them are here. Food drives. They've done stuff where they've gone to different organizations where they were helping out or did different fundraisers and just volunteered. Like team bonding, but also like good for the soul.
Absolutely, good for the soul. It's also it's a good image.
Right.
So we look back to 9/11/2001. We had a couple of rugby players do some very heroic things. One of them happened to be a former college teammate of mine. And for a while, we would get things like, you'd be on an airplane, and people would say, everyone just wants you to know, if you're a little nervous being on this plane, we have a team of rugby players. So, they'll take care of us. People would say things like that, which was really cool, but we didn't really, it was almost impossible to hold on to that. But we didn't really hold on to it a lot. And I would submit that you look around at your rugby team and you think about how many strong, motivated, able-bodied people you have, and think, what could that group do in an afternoon? Could you build a ramp for a disabled person so they can get into their house? Could you fix the park walkway in the nature park near where you live that's just been destroyed by, there was a windstorm? Could you do that? Could you go identify some older neighbors who they've let their gardens sort of fall apart a little bit? Could you go mow their lawn? Could you go through that? These are all things that you can do that are all rugby things, in my opinion. These are all team bonding, right? It's brotherhood, it's a respect for the opponent, or in other words, the non-team member. These are things that we as a rugby family and as a rugby community are the sorts of things that I hope we continue to think about. And these are things that I hope we build on. Because the sport is, I think everybody has said in some way or other today, is more than just playing the game. So I'm a little bit early, but that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll stay here to the end of the session, but if you want to have lunch early, feel free. So.